what I'd like to talk about is Obama trying to announce this subject, because the Zetas have said they have put off the Earth changes, because the Zetas said that we were going to go through 7 of 10 would be massive Earth changes, then 8 of 10 would be massive social change, then 9 of 10 would be absolutely massive destruction, and 10 would be pole shift, and 10 would only take 1 hour. The whole pole shift thing takes 1 hour. And then 60% of the world's population dies from the tidal waves, then another 40%, another 30% dies from disease, starvation, and shock. And that leaves 10% of the world's population. Well, that matches some of the biblical prophecies. But, you know, the point is that the Zetas started talking about that Obama was going to announce it. Well, like I said, in my opinion, he has to announce it. Otherwise, he has no credibility. Now, you could debate how much credibility he has anyway, but the government as a whole, if they don't announce it, if they wait until everybody looks up in the sky and goes, oh my God, what's that? At that point, you've lost any hope of anybody trusting you ever again. So the thing is, they have to announce it. So there's a huge contingent, starting with George H. Bush, going back before that, but mostly George H. Bush, because he was director of the CIA and vice president under Reagan and president. So he's basically one of the most selfish people on earth. And Cheney, and then W, who was more like a puppet than, you know, a moving force. But the intention was that you don't tell anybody, and just before pole shift, you whip out the chemical warfare and the biological viruses and bacteria, and you just kill everybody because they're all expendable. So that was supposedly, the Zeta said, the key reason to elect Obama was because he was going to get rid of that. So, okay, now he's president. Is he going to announce it? Well, it turns out it's not that simple. There's many, many people who would rather kill him than have him say one word. So, first of all, he spent the whole summer with the contingent that wants to announce it. He spent the whole summer arresting all those who don't want to announce it. So there have been going on since the beginning of the summer secret confinements and arrests and limitations of freedom of the major secret players behind the scenes who did not want to announce pole shift. So then Obama finally was ready to make the announcement at the beginning of September, and he wrote it out. I guess the people who want it announced don't trust him to just open his mouth. So they scripted the words. So they wrote them out, and then they called up the leaders friendly to the United States, and they said, we're going to announce pole shift. Well, all the leaders said, whoa, wait a minute here. We want to comment on that. So the first weekend he was going to announce it, all of a sudden there was the problems in Libya. The second weekend that he was going to announce it, and the reason why he's going to announce it on a weekend is because the stock market's closed, because the banks are scared to death that the stock market's going to crash, people are going to go nuts. So the first weekend, all of a sudden the emergency in Libya came up. So it was not like he could just say, well, I'm giving a speech from the Oval Office and I want to tell everybody there's a planet between the Earth and the Sun. So that wouldn't be good. So he had to look like, seeing how he's running for office, he had to look like he was on top of that, which, of course, you can debate how successful he was with that. And so the second weekend, all the other governments said, wait a minute. We want you to announce it on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning because we don't want it to be nightfall. And all the reporters ask us, what does that mean? So we want to change the wording. We don't like the way you worded it. So all these other nations started kibitzing and rewriting the script. So that took a while and a lot of negotiation. So they decided, okay, we're not going to announce it the second week in September. So then they finally got the script all worked out and the timing all worked out. And the third weekend he was going to announce it, and the way he was going to announce it was to use the emergency broadcast system. But that's never been used, believe it or not. It's never been used. You always see these little signals on your radio or your TV saying, this is the emergency. Had there been an emergency, you would have been told to do.
Yeah.
You know? But the thing is they've done it several times. It started with this thing called ConoAd, if you remember that, way back in the day when we were kids. And then it went from there. And now they've got this emergency broadcast system. Well, there's 22,000 nodes. And by nodes, I mean that when they push the button in the White House to announce something, it has to trigger 22,000 different electronic devices in every radio and TV station in the United States to cut into the broadcast. So they went to do that, and nothing happened. So then they called in some people, and they said, well, you know, it hasn't been tried before. We've got to look at this and fix it, and then we'll make the announcement. And they realized that it had been sabotaged, and the people that they were calling in to make the announcement go out were actually committing treason. So then Obama had to arrest the people that were supposedly going to help him make the announcement. So then they discovered, because these devices, these 22,000 devices, they were manufactured. So they're like a standard product. But the actual key node in the White House was hand-built. And somebody had gone in there and scrambled all the wires intentionally so that he couldn't make the message. So then all of a sudden, they arrested more people, and they realized, well, we can't use the emergency broadcast system. And that Saturday when they planned to do it, there were actually some opponents of the message went to court and got a court order saying, why do we get this notice that we're going to have a public service announcement from the White House on the emergency broadcast network? We think it's a hoax, and we want a court order blocking it. So it was prohibited from going out. So then that weekend went by, and then all of a sudden it looked like Romney was surging ahead, and they're like, oh, God, we've got to focus on, after the first debate, they're like, we've got to focus on winning the election. So then you've got to realize that in the background, Michael, the Council of Worlds, which is the organization of unselfish extraterrestrials, they said, look, and they gave an ultimatum to the White House. They gave it personally to Obama. And so he's been in touch with extraterrestrials. He knows the reality of all of this. And they told him,
no, you're
look,
not the first one to tell me this.
yeah,
I've heard about Obama and Martians and all kinds of good stuff. So
so they told him, look, you are going to announce this. You are. And if you don't, we're going to make events happen so precipitously that you'll wish you had. And there will be no coming back from that, but we're going to force you to announce it. There's no question over whether you might announce it or you would like to announce it or you might announce it. You are going to announce it. And if you don't announce it, we are going to make sure that you have to. So we're going to make Planet X more visible. We're going to have more people be able to take pictures of it around the world. We're going to make world events more shocking. And pretty soon, you're going to wish you had announced it. So you don't really have a choice. You have to announce it. But then, because Obama did so badly, and the Zetas evidently think that Obama's going to win, and they're supporting him winning, and they hope he wins. So they've taken off the table making things worse until after the election. After the election, there should be more extremely startling events, whether they're giant earthquakes, volcanoes, disasters, Planet X being more visible in the sky where every single person going out for the first time with a regular camera can take a picture of it. I don't know. Nobody knows. But the Council of Worlds is not letting this go by. And the thing is all the rich people have always said, we want to know the exact date and hour of pole shift. And Nancy has always said, I don't know it myself, and if I did, I probably would have leaked out already. But the Zetas have said they will announce it to the whole world if you will schedule a press conference where every single news agency in the world is there, the Zetas will speak through me and tell the whole world what the date of pole shift is. So,
see, now, how come they don't just appear and say, hey, this is what's going on? Because you can understand how people would have a hard time with somebody saying, that's like with psychics. I'll have psychics on sometimes, and I'll get emails saying, oh, that's nonsense, that's not true.
Garbage, right.
And yeah, so I mean, how do we, I guess you're not out to prove nothing to anybody. But
well, I don't, look, I'm just telling you what I know. So if you don't want to believe it, then don't. You don't have to.
Right.
And even when Planet X is plainly in the sky, and even the president has said that it's causing all of our troubles and it's about to cause some more, even at that point, there's going to be people that are going, well, I don't really believe it, and I'm just going to continue doing what I was doing. I mean, I've met people like that. I've met people that, I met a couple, and the husband said, if that's what's going to happen, I'm just going to arrange my chair facing the ocean. I'm going to light a cigar and wait for the tidal wave to come in and kill me. And his wife is saying, well, we're going to run for the hills with the kids. So, I mean, every single marriage is going to have a split. It's like some people are going to get it, some aren't. Like I know of a survivor-type fisherman, and his father was telling me, he goes, well, if that's what's going to happen, I'm just going to get swept away. And I was thinking, oh, no, you're not, because your son is going to come and grab you and put you in his pickup truck and drive you right up the nearest mountain so you can survive, whether you like it or not. But excuse me, there's going to be this division in every single family and between friends, and, some are going to believe it and some aren't. And you're entitled to be skeptical. Go for it. Don't believe it. But the thing is about a third of the earth is going to believe it and are going to take measures. And the measures are basically run for your life. And if you only live 5 more minutes, make sure it's helping somebody else. Simple things to remember. Run for the hills. Make plans now. So I'm not going to be surprised when President Obama announces it, because even if he himself wanted to, he doesn't have a choice. He's been told that he's going to have to announce it. And so you and so many other people, we're all waiting for, that saying, for the other shoe to drop. Like, if he doesn't announce it, what's the Council of Worlds going to do? Is it going to make the moon do little circles in the sky? Is it going to make the sun stay up, for 2 days without setting? I mean, is it going to be, is the New Madrid fault going to go off and 40 million people are going to be homeless, and then he's going to announce it? I mean, what is it that we're waiting for? And nobody knows. You would think, and yours is a very common question. Why don't they land on the White House lawn and say this is what it is? And the reason why, and you'll find this eventually, you'll understand it if you don't already, is to allow skeptics to be in denial, because this planet is arranged so everyone gets complete freedom of choice. So if you don't want to believe in extraterrestrials, and you don't want to believe in apocalypse, and you don't want to believe in the beginning of a new spiritual age and the end of the old nasty political age and the money age and the control age and the war age, if you don't want to believe that, then don't. But there's a group ready to graduate, and they're moving on. So you can either believe it or not believe it. But, what I'm saying makes sense to a lot of people. So, of course, we'd like to see them land on the White House lawn and say, yeah, this is what's going to happen. But they can't interfere with the freedom of choice of idiots. Can you understand that? That to do that involves karma that makes them responsible for taking on, they created distortion in time that then they have to balance. And they're not really interested in sticking around and balancing distortions that they created. It's our planet. We have to handle it the right way, and they're giving us guidance. All we've got to do is take a hint, and we're not taking a hint very well.
I understand that, and I guess the same argument has gone with people who don't believe in God. They say, well, if he's real, why don't he just show himself in the sky? Then we all can't deny it. But yet, I guarantee you, there'll be people who say, oh, they used holograms or holographic technology to put them there. So, I think you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And if Obama or any other leader came out and announced this, what kind of chaos would that cause too? Because I think people,
and they're not going to say run for the hills, and they're not going to say Zeta talk. But the thing is, it's going to take a couple of days, but everyone's going to figure out the only one that's been discussing this from day one in detail with every nuance and safe areas and everything else is Zeta talk. So why not just break down and read the damn
thing? That's right. Hey, Gordon, we're up for our next break here, so hang on with me. When we come back, I'd like to talk about maybe get in a little more about how people can get pictures of Planet X, some things maybe they should look for in the sky, and also wondering if we can go back maybe, 20, 30 years ago, get pictures of the sun and match them up to pictures of today and find these differences. And some things like that I'd like to get into, maybe some safe havens and even preparedness, I think would be a good thing to get into. Whether you believe or not, there's people guessed, and we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this now, what you can do to protect yourself, should you believe it. I know there's some out there that think this is just a fun topic to play with, and then there's others who take it very serious. Whichever one you are, hey, I'm not here to judge you. We're just putting the information out there, and, it's up to you to do the research and decide if you believe it or not. But I will say again, I've been covering this since I began some 5 years ago with Late Night in the Midlands. And everything that we've been being told by guys like Dr. Rand and John Moore and even Gordon James and many others, Ann Eller, I mean, the list goes on. It's all seems to be coming true. And, the storms getting bigger, the earthquakes picking up, the changes. And, I remember my first month, I had a guest on who worked with some of the scientists on the global warming deal, and he came out and said that it was all a farce. It was all, the science was altered to fit the agenda, and I mean, so we've been talking about this for a long, long time, and it's like some people actually get angry if you don't believe. I'm not one of those. If you don't believe, hey, that's on you. If you do believe, I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm saying that I notice changes. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, so if the world was to go to hell in a handbasket tonight, I'd be in trouble because I'm not prepared. But, I don't deny that we are definitely going through changes, and we're going to get back to our guest in just a moment. Get over to LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Become a member. Be informed. Inform others. You can post information on the website, videos, you name it. We've got a game room as well for those who might not want to participate in the chat and just listen and play some of them old-style video games. Well, we got that too. And, I'm not like others who say, well, if you take time out to play games or enjoy life just a little bit, you've got to be a sheeple. If you're listening to this program, then you're definitely awake, or you're in the process of becoming awake, and that's a good thing. Now you just got to share the information and not worry about who thinks you're crazy or not. I talk about this stuff. Even a neighbor will come out and we start talking. I'll bring all this stuff up, and if they think I'm crazy, well then, I know who's going to need help when it all comes down to push and shove. So get to know your neighbors. Like Anthony says in the chat room, get to know your neighbors so you don't have to shoot them. I kind of like that. Anyways, let's get back to it. 347-989-1012. Gordon James, my guest, and Gordon, we're back. And I guess the first thing I'd like to kind of hit on here is, could we get pictures from back whenever and compare those pictures to modern pictures of the sun, the moon, or any of that, and actually see differences?
Well, the
sufficient.
moon is so much different, but the sun is different because it's got this huge cloud of iron ore dust that's oily in between the Earth and the sun. That tail is 5 million miles long with twin strands, which is why the planet X is known as the winged globe, because it has a twin-stranded tail of moons, rocks, and dust, and hydrocarbons. So, and the dust is iron ore dust from the eruptions on planet X. So, and the tail is made up of gravel from all the collisions of rocks. So there's boulders, gravel, pebbles, there's the whole shebang. So the first thing that's going to happen is when planet X stops the Earth's crust from moving with the core, and then slides the crust up over the pole and lets go so that Recife, Brazil, the eastern tip of Brazil, is the new North Pole, you're going to get the water sloshing. But then that's the process of planet X leaving the solar system. So as it leaves, it's going to, this tail is just sitting there between planet X and the Earth now, sort of like electrostatically charged. It gets little tornadoes in it, just like dust on the Earth. You'll see little dust devils, and you'll see huge tornadoes. And so it gets those kinds of structures in the tail, and they will funnel light like a fiber optic cable. So if you go to poleshift.ning.com, you'll see pictures where there are these white spots. And in the white spots, which are like fiber optic cables channeling the sunlight through the cloud, sometimes you'll see the dark silhouette of the moons of planet X in the tail. So they're spectacular pictures. And every single day, more and more get submitted. And some of the most famous and the best are taken by this guy in Italy named Alberto Cardena. And he's an older gentleman. He's very nice. He speaks a little bit of English, but mostly Italian. And he even went out and bought himself a better camera to take pictures. But he's using a floppy disk that he took apart of a swimming pool or off the windshield of a car and take a picture of the sun as a reflection. And there have been many pictures taken that show planet X. Now, we're north of the equator. So north of the equator, it looks like it's in the 5 o'clock position. But you'll notice that the pictures taken south of the equator, it's in the 10 o'clock position, which makes sense because all those poor people in south of the equator, they're all upside down. They don't even know that. But anyway, their pictures show planet X in the 10 o'clock position. So, you can just make this stuff up so many times. And the best thing to do, if you have any question at all these digital cameras, and I'm sure if you have a digital camera, yours does too, they all shoot videos. So put the camera on video, and while it's pointed at the sun, use your hand to rotate the camera. The lens flares, which of course there's going to be lens flares. You're pointing a piece of glass at the sun. How are there not going to be lens flares? But you turn the camera in your hand as you're photographing the sun, and the lens flares will move with the turning of the camera, but the planet X will not. So the clearest photographs that there's no argument over them are videos that are shot where the camera is turning, and you can see the lens flares rotate with the rotation of the camera, and then the planet X is not rotating. So, I don't know how much plainer I can be telling people to go do this. I want all of you to go do it, and if you get any pictures, then you can read poleshift.ning.com all you want for free. And but if you want to submit a question for the Zetas, or if you want to submit a picture to be posted on their website, you've got to be a member. And it's free to join, and it's free to be a member, and there's never any charge at all. But they're pretty strict because there's a lot of disinformation type people out there that want to screw with them, and they want to filter those people out. So you do have to screen yourself, and they use that as a basis for deciding whether to let you be a member or not. And but if you're honest and sincere and you're a regular person and you mean well, of course they're going to let you be a member, and you can post the pictures on there. But if you don't feel like doing that and you just want to look at the pictures other people have taken, including me, you can go to the website, and there's hundreds, if not thousands of them now. So, and if you go to Zeta Talk itself, it references, in the text, it references images taken by NASA. I mean, the NASA SOHO satellites, there are 2 of them. They take pictures of the sun every day. When Planet X came around from behind the sun, it was right there next to the sun, looking like a circle with wings, a pilot symbol. You know, the symbol that pilots wear in their uniform with a little globe and it has wings on it. That's the ancient symbol for the winged globe for Planet X. And plainly, NASA took pictures of the winged globe next to the sun. And that's the same symbol carved on 18,000-year-old monuments high up at 12,000 feet in the Andes in Peru. I mean, this is all connected. This is not something that's just made up out of the blue and just seems to be a good topic now. This is connected in every way, shape, and form. And if you start reading Zeta Talk, you're going to find these links, and it will come together for you and make sense. So, you know, I can lead you to water, but I can't make you drink. And, you know, I know there's people who are listening to the show who are going to be very interested to do the research themselves. And there's other of you that are just going to say, this guy is ridiculous. If it were true, the government would have told us. And those people I can't help. I don't think you can either, Michael.
No, and you know what? I stopped trying to convince people of things myself. You know, I used to do that in my early days, and I stopped that now. Now the information's out there, and I tell people, you know, it's real easy. It's all at your fingertips. You can do your own research and make up your own mind. And, you know, I'm not twisting arms no more. I say if you're going to be a brick wall, then I jump over you and go to the next person. And, you know, even people who might have a problem believing in the Zeta Talk thing, I would say that there's still enough out there where you can see, you know, there's enough to question to make you at least want to look into it. I know I do, and I have a problem sometimes getting photos from NASA's site because I don't trust them. And if something was there, they would make sure I didn't see it. So, you know, I try to be clever when I do research on this and find stuff that maybe, you know, they haven't covered their tracks. And I definitely taking my own pictures would help.
See, the magnetosphere simulator showed the magnetic field around Earth in relation to the sun for years. And then all of a sudden, people realized that the magnetic lines from the Earth were heading towards the sun. Well, that's impossible because there's a solar wind. So you can't see magnetic lines with your eye, and you never could. I mean, you can take a magnet and put a sheet of typing paper over it, drop some metal filings on the paper, and then you can see the lines because the pieces of steel illustrate it. But they had a satellite that was taking pictures of the Earth's magnetic field every day, and they were posting it on the Internet live, like an update every 10 minutes. And all of a sudden, the magnetic lines, instead of being blown back by the solar wind, started heading towards the sun. Well, guess what? The solar wind blows the magnetic lines back, so they never go towards the sun. So the only reason they would go towards the sun is because there's something else in between the Earth and the sun. So these pictures started getting more and more dramatic, and then all of a sudden, March 13th happened this year, and they said, uh-oh, we can't let that go on, and they shut it down permanently. And they posted a note on their website saying, oh, our lease ran out on the supercomputer we were using, so, gee, we're sorry, we're not going to have the magnetic simulator anymore. But what happened on March 13th should blow your mind, because imagine that you've got some small vials of colored dye in your hand, and you're standing over a fast-moving stream. You have 1 foot on one side and 1 foot on the other side, and you drop some colored dye into the stream. Where's the dye going to go? It's going to go downstream. That's what happened with the magnetic lines on Earth. And all of a sudden, a day came, March 13th, 2012, and all the colored dye went upstream. Imagine that you're standing there, you're dropping the dye down into the stream, You have 1 foot on either side of the stream. It's very fast moving. You're dropping the dye down, and all the dye goes upstream. That's what happened on March 13th, and that's impossible. That is scientifically impossible. That means that something or somebody or some device was placed on the other side of the Earth from the sun that caused the solar wind not to just stop, because if they had equal to the solar wind, then it would stop. But they had it so that it was as strong as the solar wind, but it came from the other side of the Earth blowing towards the solar wind, which means that whatever they did created a flow of electromagnetic force that was twice the power of the solar wind. And I'm sure that was the extraterrestrials screwing with the government scientists, because this is not on the tip of everybody's tongue. People don't go around discussing the magnetic simulator every day, and most people wouldn't even know if I didn't explain it. They wouldn't have even known what it was. So the thing is this probably only blew the minds of about a dozen government scientists. But the members of the Pole Shift Ning and the fans of Zeta Talk are always looking at these sites. And when they see this stuff, they right-click on it to save the image as to their directory. And that's how it was captured. And it was because of that that all of a sudden the site shut down completely and is no more. So every time something turns out to reveal Planet X, all of a sudden the government doesn't need it anymore.
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, there have been plenty of satellites that have been set up, or not satellites, but telescopes set up to search for this object. I know even the Vatican has an infrared telescope. I believe they named it Lucifer or something like that. So, you know, there's plenty of evidence out there that the government, believed this object existed, and plenty of evidence to say that they had found it. You know, I don't know what else to say to people, except for, you know, for myself, I believe it's out there. I just, you know, I'm not sure when people ask me, well, when or what's it going to do, you know, that's the part that I'm not positive about. I guess we'll find out.
I am positive about it, and I can tell you, like NASA just announced that they're going to build a $500 million special telescope to launch to go look for Planet X again. Now, that's such a joke. What a waste of money. I can tell them where it is on any day of the week. It's at the 5 o'clock position below the sun, just like if you held a penny at arm's length, it's about that distance between the edge of the sun and the 5 o'clock position. That's where it is. And it's about the size of a penny held at arm's length. And it's backlit, so you can't see it. But what you can see is the dust around it glowing. So what you see is like a silhouette, because you understand that if I have a light bulb on the other side of the room, and I put in, and all the other lights are out, and I put an object in between you and the light bulb, you're going to know that object is there. But if I move the object over into the darkness of the rest of the room, you're not going to know, because it's the other side of the object that's lit by the light bulb, not the side that you're on, but the side the light bulb is on. And that's why, like during the new moon, you don't see the moon. It doesn't mean the moon isn't there. It means that the moon is being backlit. The sun is on the other side. And on the full moon, the face is lit because the sun is on the other side of Earth. So it's like you're in the room, the object's on the wall, and the light bulb is behind you. That's what the full moon is like. So it lights up the object perfectly. So that's why you don't see, you don't see Planet X, but what you do see is the glowing area around it, and the tail of it creating this dust cloud around the sun, this huge dust cloud, which is really prominent at the 5 o'clock position. So, and even if you could look at it, have you ever taken a binoculars or a telescope and tried to look at Venus? There's no detail. It's a white planet surrounded by clouds, lit either pink or golden by the sun. You can't see any.
That's like with stars or anything up there. I'll try to look at it. through maybe binoculars or something like that, or even a video camera, and it's just this white ball,
Exactly.
and and you can see the halo kind of around
Right.
it.
So what you can do is you can look at this, take the picture, get this object at the 5 o'clock position, and just ask yourself, what in the hell is that? How can anybody say this is normal? You know? I mean,
Yeah.
case closed. Case closed.
Like,
And go prove it to yourself. If you needed like a $500 million telescope or a trained astronomer, I always hear people going, well, what do the top astronomers say? And why don't we hire some type of astronomer? Why don't we build the best telescope ever and use that? Or,
aren't they
where is
getting
a
killed
telescope
off?
we can borrow? You don't need that.
I've
Pretty soon you'll be able to see it with your bare eyes. When it gets far enough away from the sun, there it'll be. And it will look kind of milky, cloudy, reddish. And it won't be a comet. And all these people that say it's 18 times the size of Jupiter and it's light years away, but it's going to come through, it's all a bunch of crap. It's a bunch of crap. You can go see it any day you want. It's hidden in plain sight.
Before we hit our last break here, Gordon, then we'll come back and talk about what, if anything, people can do to stay safe. But I want to touch on in the next few minutes here before the break on scientists. And isn't it a fact that a lot of them who have been trying to get the message out about this have mysteriously disappeared, shall we say?
Absolutely.
I guess? Yeah.
One of the most famous cases is the French astronaut Claudette, and Claudie, as she was known. She was the only female French astronaut, and they were having a press conference about 3 years ago, and it was a panel discussion, and she grabbed the microphone and said, the people of Earth must be told, they must be warned, and at that exact moment, 6 bodyguards flattened her on the floor, dragged her out of the room, and the next day they had a very sad news announcement that she had a nervous breakdown, she was taken to a mental hospital, and wouldn't you know it, she passed away during the night.
Yeah, a lot of mysterious deaths, Gordon. Hang on a minute. We're going to take our break. It's the last break, folks. It's a short one. Then we'll come back. It's your last mark to go here. And, hardened structures. They even deal with tornado safe structuring and things like that. So check them out. They're over on latenightinthemidlands.com, and the banner's right there. You can click on it, and you even save yourself a cool $500 by doing it through Late Night in the Midlands. But getting on with it, we're going to take calls first. Get over to the website, latenightinthemidlands.com. Become a member. Be informed, and by all means inform others. And remember, we do cover everything, and, some nights you may agree, some nights you may not, but nevertheless, it's all information, and it's up to you to go ahead and do the research and confirm it. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. I'm just going to pass this information on to you, and that's what we're doing here tonight with Gordon. And Gordon, we have a call if you want to take it quick, and then we'll get into the what people can do to prepare for something like this. Thomas in California, you're on Late Night in the Midlands.
Yeah, how you doing? Thank you. I just wanted to ask about that example of the dye going the other way. So that would be going towards the sun?
Exactly. Could
that be that pyramid type?
I myself have asked them dozens of questions that they refuse to answer, and they all go, well, it really doesn't matter. So it's like, let's say that you were working on something and you dropped a piece of paper, and I said you dropped a piece of paper, but while I was saying that, somebody was shooting at you. Wouldn't it be better if I said, instead of referring to the paper, I said, duck, there's a bullet headed for your head? So that's sort of the attitude the Zetas have, is like, really, after pole shift, when there's no more governments and ETs land and they have open contact, ask away. Right now, we're telling you, you have got to get ready to save your life. And they tell you how to do it. But as for your question, I have no doubt that the sun is some sort of a portal to another dimension, and that things can come through it, and it isn't just a triangle. I mean, there have been huge objects like motherships next to the sun. So we always think, well, that's millions of degrees. You couldn't park your mothership next to the sun, but maybe they can. Maybe on the next dimension up, the sun isn't hot at all. It's just a portal to another dimension, and they come and go through it. I really don't know, but I'd sure like to know, just like you, Thomas.
Well, I guess that's what the Mayan, I guess, I can't even pronounce his name. He's supposed to have been spoken about that in the emerald tablets. But anyways.
Yeah, there's a lot.
That was my question.
Yeah, well, that's a good question, and I can't answer it. I'm sorry, but I would classify that as esoteric knowledge, which I personally have a great interest in, but I can't tell you any more than you're already theorizing. So, but I can tell you there is an object in the sun, and the magnetosphere was picking up the fact that the magnetic lines are coming off the North Pole of Earth, going to the South Pole of Planet X, going through Planet X, and coming out the North Pole of Planet X and going to the South Pole of Earth. So, and that shouldn't have happened if there's no object there. That shouldn't be happening. It's like if you go out with long hair and you stand in front of a powerful fan, and the fan is blowing air at your head, all your hair should stream behind your head. But imagine while you're doing that, all of a sudden your hair starts heading towards the fan. That would be pretty strange, and that's what happened on March 13th.
Yeah, well, that would seem that there'd be even a bigger fan behind you, pushing it the other way.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for your call, Thomas. I hope that helps a little bit. But, yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. I've seen these pictures of these objects that seem to be in front of the sun or even portals through the sun. And, I know people find this a little hard to believe, but, this stuff is out there. I don't know. Again, make your own determinations. Gordon, what can people do, if anything, to prepare for something like this? Everybody, I hear a lot saying, well, why worry about it? What can we do? We're all going to die anyways, and that's the attitude some take. So what can people do to better help themselves prepare?
We're not all going to die, and the will to survive is equal to anything you could do. No matter how dire your situation. I mean, there's always somebody that gets carried away with a tidal wave that just gets washed up further up the hill and stands up, dusts himself off, and goes, okay, so I wasn't meant to die. So the thing is you're a creator in training. So the point that you have to understand is, what do you want? Because you are capable of materializing your reality. So you're not going to be able to convince everybody. There's no doubt you're not. You're just not. But what you can do, and, if NASA had told us 60 years ago, well, they didn't start till 1958, but if when the government found out, they told everybody, then we could have all set up a brand new city in Nebraska and Wyoming and Kansas, and we could move everybody from the coasts, and we'd all survive, and then we could go back to the new coasts, and everyone would be fine. But that isn't going to happen. So what can you do now? One thing you can do is go to Zeta Talk and look up your location and see how safe it is. The odds are, if you're on either coast, it's not too safe. If you're in the Mississippi or the Ohio River valleys, it's not safe at all. If you're near a volcano, that's not safe. So you've got to look, and Zeta Talk has a wonderful section called Safe Areas, and it goes country by country, state by state, city by city in some cases. And, you have to be able to have a certain degree of intelligence to fill in between the lines. So they're not going to tell you what to do on your street. If you're 110 School Street, what do I do? What do I do? Well, they're not going to tell you that, but they'll tell you what's happening with the city next to you, what's happening to the coastline in front of you, what's happening to the mountains around you. You figure it out. But the point is, time is really short. Now, I moved to a mountaintop in 1999. I built houses on notched wooden beams, so they're on runners, and I can pull them around with my tractor, and I can move them, and they can't be destroyed in an earthquake. The most they could do is fall over, and I could use the tractor to straighten them back up again. And I doused a well, and I have a blueberry farm, and I grow bees. So I'm doing what I can. Am I perfect? No. Am I a millionaire? No. Do I have every piece of equipment I'd like to have? No. Do I have 40 years of food put away? No. And nor should you, because if you had 40 years worth of food, somebody would undoubtedly come and steal it. So the question is, you can't put away 40 years worth of underwear and socks, 40 years worth of shirts, 40 years worth of anything. So the thing is, you should be watching those shows on the Discovery Channel like Survivor Man, and you should be buying books on edible plants. You should learn how to hunt. You should learn how to grow a garden. You should understand the difference between genetically modified hybrid seeds and heirloom seeds that always create babies that sprout. So you should be learning those kinds of things. But the most important thing to begin with is your location. So let's say you can't get your wife to agree with you, or you're the wife and you can't get your husband to agree with you. Just read the Zeta description, figure out the nearest place that's safe, and drive over there, take a weekend, and say, well, I'm going for a drive in the mountains. And go up there and look around and say, if I suddenly move to this town, would I like these people? Would I like to live here? Would I get along with these people? And just keep doing that until you find a place where all of a sudden your heart tells you that you're compatible with these people, this place, this way of life. And then plan for moving there. And then you can tell everyone, look, I know you don't believe me, but if you want to know where I'm going to be in Woodstock, New York. And this is my address. And if you finally realize I was right, come and join me. And that's all you can do, because you can't make them cooperate with anything. And, it discusses that in the Bible that, people are going to disagree. And brothers are going to separate, spouses are going to separate. There's all kinds of different descriptions of it. But the point is, and you would know this yourself. Now, I'm lucky. I have a partner who agrees with me on all of this. And I don't know when pole shift is, but she's had dreams that the tidal wave is pushing ice ahead of it. So the Zetas have said that there will be a magnetic trimester that will occur on one of the magnetic trimesters, which is August 1st, December 1st, or April 1st. August 1st, there's no ice. December 1st, the ice is just starting to form. So if my wife's dream is true, which I believe it is, the only time this could happen would be April 1st. And I have to say to myself, if the president could get away without announcing it for another 10 years, I would bet money that that's what he would do. I do. So if he's going to announce it in November, it's got to be because it is going to happen in April. But nobody's saying. But the Zetas would be glad to give everybody the exact date. But they aren't going to do it unless there's a worldwide press conference and every single person, right down to the common man, not just the elite, not just the powerful, but the common man knows the date. And I've talked to Nancy quite a bit about this, Nancy Leader, and she said over and over again, there is going to be a period of time between when it's announced and when it happens, when the cold reality, the spiritual truth is going to sink in slowly into everybody's brain, and it's going to travel down their spine and give them cold chills, because they're going to realize that most of what they've worked for their entire lives is about to be swept away and become meaningless. And they're going to have to ask themselves, on a soul level, they're going to ask themselves, what is important? And you see it every single disaster. I've been watching the news about Hurricane Sandy. And people are saying, well, I lost my house, my boat, my car, but, the family's safe and the pets are safe, and that's all that matters. That person has realized what other Maine to Georgia. It's going to be just the way when you look at Australia on the map and you see there's this narrow mountainous island to the east called New Zealand. That's the way the eastern United States is going to look. It's going to be just this mountainous island that goes from Maine to Georgia. Everything else to the west of that and to the east of it's going to be underwater. But then as you get to the west of Kansas and you start climbing into Colorado, you're going to be at the foothills of the Rockies. You're going to be safe because the North American plate is very stable. And then you go over the Rockies and you head west and you get to California. California's going to shatter. It's going to be known as the California Islands. All those inland valleys that are all food producing right now, the Imperial Valley and everything else, the Salton Sea, they're all going to be underwater. So, and you don't want to be in Colorado because that's where the martial law, that's where the military government's going to be. They're planning to start mining uranium there now. They're planning to start mining gold there. They're making all kinds of plans. They've put away all kinds of weapons. They've got underground facilities in Denver that would boggle your mind. And anyone that lives in Colorado, you can expect a helicopter to fly over your farm and take all your food and probably kill you if you don't want to cooperate. So you don't want to be in Colorado. But north of that, great places, Montana. And don't forget, the new North Pole is going to be Recife, Brazil. So the whole United States is going to be temperate except southeastern United States. That's going to be the part that's closest to the new North Pole. So what's going to be cold? Florida's going to be underwater. So Georgia is going to be cold. It's going to be just like Maine is now. And Maine is going to be like the North Carolina, South Carolina line. And then California is going to be facing the equator. So it's going to be even more tropical than Hawaii is now. So you can figure all this out if you look at a map and figure out how far would you be from Recife, Brazil. But the future United States, and Edgar Cayce said that he had this dream that he was born in the year 2100 in the greatest seaport in North America, Omaha, Nebraska. And you might laugh at that, going, oh my God, you couldn't pay me to live in Omaha. But the Mississippi goes right to it. And if the Mississippi splits open and salt water goes to Omaha, guess what? Omaha probably is going to be the greatest seaport in North America. And maybe that isn't so bad. So, you know, a lot of people that couldn't imagine going fishing for saltwater fish, they're going to have the chance. I mean, Dick Cheney wanted the Wyoming legislature to buy him a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. And you could laugh and say, what is Wyoming going to do with a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier? But the Red River's going to flood, and they could take an aircraft carrier right up into Wyoming. And Dick Cheney would have a nuclear-powered hospital, jets. He could be king of the world. So you have to put these little pieces of information together to get the big picture. We're about to have something really big happen, and you had better do something about it.
All right, and we're getting down on time here just a little bit, but a few quick places I'd like to get some info on. South Carolina will become of the Carolinas. Also New York State and Canada I'm being asked about.
Well, Canada is going to be, by and large, very safe place to be and a nice place to be. It's going to be far enough from the pole that it's going to be very temperate. It's going to be a food-producing place. But the shallow places, the new sea level is going to be 700 feet above present. So I'm not sure what the elevation of Columbia is, but I know it's kind of swampy around there, and I'm thinking that's going to be underwater. Canada is going to be okay, but as you go closer to the Hudson Bay, that's going to grow in size immensely. And the Great Lakes are all going to be interconnected as one body of salt water that's going to go from the Gulf of Mexico up through the center of the United States, through the Great Lakes and out the St. Lawrence. And that's all going to be one gigantic saltwater seaway. And, but you can put this together with the Zeta Talk information that goes into detail extensively about this. And you can take steps now. And, if you can't convince somebody to go with you, that doesn't mean, maybe they don't want to survive, but maybe you do. So, of course, there's going to have to be a separation. Make your decisions. Get ready to live your life the way you know it should be lived. Because They're unselfish extraterrestrials with unbelievable technology, and they're not saying what they're going to do. But they have said, if you form a survival community with unselfish leaders, they will be inclined to help you. So who knows what that means? They could bring electronic devices, food, new technology, and if you don't think there's such a thing as extraterrestrials, I guarantee you'll never see one. But if you think there are and you want contact with the nice ones, I guarantee you will. Because the only reason you don't see them now is because the government has prohibited it. But if there's no government, guess what? So.
All right. Well, Gordon, I thank you so much for coming back on Late Night in the Midlands. I always enjoy it when you come on. Unfortunately, we're talking about the doom and gloom of the future, but hey, it needs to be talked about, and I appreciate it.
Well, it's the beginning of something new, you know. It's the end of some old crappy stuff. It's going to take a big broom to sweep away everything that's wrong, and then a new thing is going to begin, and it's going to be better than ever because it's going to have extremely wise, caring people here to help us. They won't say now what they're going to do, but I assure you it's going to be something that involves love and acceptance and healing.
Okay. Well, the website is www.zetatalk.com. Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, Gordon, until next
time. Not my
time.
website, but you'll find everything I've been talking about explained in detail there.
Absolutely. And we've got you linked up over on Late Night in the
Thing called Conolad, if you remember that way back in the day when we were kids, and then it went from there. And now they've got this emergency broadcast system. Well, there's 22,000 nodes, and by nodes I mean that when they push the button in the White House to announce something, it has to trigger 22,000 different electronic devices in every radio and TV station in the United States to cut into the broadcast. So they went to do that, and nothing happened. So then they called in some people, and they said, well, you know, it hasn't been tried before. We've got to look at this and fix it, and then we'll make the announcement. And they realized that it had been sabotaged, and the people that they were calling in to make the announcement go out were actually committing treason. So then Obama had to arrest the people that were supposedly going to help him make the announcement. So then they discovered, because these devices, these 22,000 devices, they were manufactured. So they're like a standard product. But the actual key node in the White House was hand-built. And somebody had gone in there and scrambled all the wires intentionally so that he couldn't make the message. So then all of a sudden, they arrested more people, and they realized, well, we can't use the emergency broadcast system. And that Saturday when they planned to do it, there were actually some opponents of the message went to court and got a court order saying, why do we get this notice that we're going to have a public selfish people on Earth? And change. And then W, who was more like a puppet than, you know, a moving force. But the intention was that you don't tell anybody, and just before pole shift, you whip out the chemical warfare and the biological viruses and bacteria, and you just kill everybody because they're all expendable. So that was supposedly, the Zeta said, the key reason to elect Obama was because he was going to get rid of that. So, now he's president. is he going to announce it? Well, it turns out it's not that simple. There's many, many people who would rather kill him than have him say one word. So, first of all, he spent the whole summer with the contingent that wants to announce it. He spent the whole summer arresting all those who don't want to announce it. So there have been going on since the beginning of the summer secret confinements and arrests and limitations of freedom of the major secret players behind the scenes who did not want to announce pole shift. So then Obama finally was ready to make the announcement at the beginning of September, and he wrote it out. I guess the people who want it announced don't trust him to just open his mouth. So they scripted the words. So they wrote them out, and then they called up the leaders of friendly to the United States, and they said, we're going to announce pole shift. Well, all the leaders said, whoa, wait a minute here. We want to comment on that. So the first weekend he was going to announce it, all of a sudden there was the problems in Libya. The second weekend, a service announcement from the White House on the Emergency Broadcast Network, we think it's a hoax, and we want a court order blocking it. So it was prohibited from going out. So then that weekend went by, and then all of a sudden it looked like Romney was surging ahead, and they're like, oh, God, we've got to focus on, after the first debate, they're like, we've got to focus on winning the election. So then you've got to realize that in the background, Michael, the Council of Worlds, which is the organization of unselfish extraterrestrials, they said, look, and they gave an ultimatum to the White House. They gave it personally to Obama. And so he's been in touch with extraterrestrials. He knows the reality of all of this. And they told him,
no, you're
look,
not the first one to tell me this.
yeah,
I've heard about Obama
yeah.
and Martians and all kinds of good stuff. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
so they told him, look, you are going to announce this. You are. And if you don't, we're going to make events happen so precipitously that you'll wish you had. And there will be no coming back from that, but we're going to force you to announce it. There's no question over whether you might announce it or you would like to announce it or you might announce it. You are going to announce it. And if you don't announce it, we are going to make sure that you have to. So we're going to make Planet X more visible. We're going to have more people be able to take pictures of it around the world. We're going to make world events more shocking. And pretty soon, you're going to wish you had announced it. So you don't really have a choice. You have to announce it. What I'd like to talk about is Obama trying to announce this subject, because the Zetas have said they have put off the Earth changes, because the Zetas said that we were going to go through 7 of 10 would be massive Earth changes, then 8 of 10 would be massive social change, then 9 of 10 would be absolutely massive destruction, and 10 would be pole shift, and 10 would only take 1 hour. The whole pole shift thing takes 1 hour. And then 60% of the world's population dies from the tidal waves, then another 40%, another 30% dies from disease, starvation, and shock, and that leaves 10% of the world's population. Well, that matches some of the biblical prophecies, but the point is that the Zetas started talking about that Obama was going to announce it. Well, like I said, in my opinion, he has to announce it. Otherwise, he has no credibility. Now, you could debate how much credibility he has anyway, but the government as a whole, if they don't announce it, if they wait until everybody looks up in the sky and goes, oh my God, what's that? At that point, you've lost any hope of anybody trusting you ever again. So the thing is, they have to announce it. So there's a huge contingent, starting with George H. Bush, going back before that, but mostly George H. Bush, because he was director of the CIA and vice president under Reagan and president. So he's basically one of the most that he was going to announce it. And the reason why he's going to announce it on a weekend is because the stock market's closed, because the banks are scared to death that the stock market's going to crash. People are going to go nuts. So the first weekend, all of a sudden the emergency in Libya came up. So it was not like you could just say, well, I'm giving a speech from the Oval Office and I want to tell everybody there's a planet between the Earth and the Sun. So that wouldn't be good. So he had to look like, seeing as how he's running for office, he had to look like he was on top of that, which, of course, you can debate how successful he was with that. And so the second weekend, all the other governments said, wait a minute. We want you to announce it on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning because we don't want it to be nightfall and all the reporters ask us, what does that mean? So we want to change the wording. We don't like the way you worded it. So all these other nations started kibitzing and rewriting the script. So that took a while and a lot of negotiation. So they decided, okay, we're not going to announce it the second week in September. So then they finally got the script all worked out and the timing all worked out. And the third weekend he was going to announce it. And the way he was going to announce it was to use the emergency broadcast system. But that's never been used, believe it or not. It's never been used. You always see these little signals on your radio or your TV saying, use the emergency. Had there been an emergency, you would have been told to do it. You know? But the thing is they've redone it several times. It started with the